Good day, Marians. Praise be Jesus and Mary. I am Ms. Shannon May Bilising from the Student Development Office, and for today, we will have our second webinar. So our topic for today is mental health during the COVID-19 pandemic. Alam ko na marami sa inyo ay alam kung ano ang ibig sabihin ng COVID-19 pandemic or the COVID-19 virus. And also, merong mangilan-ngilan or probably alam nyo rin naman kung ano ang importansya ng ating mental health, lalo na ngayon na meron tayong pandemic. So, to summarize, ang ating topic will mainly focus on what is the effect of the COVID-19 pandemic sa ating mental health. Bago tayo magsimula, gusto ko kayong kamustahin. Kamusta na ba kayo ngayon na nasa bahay lamang kayo? Kamusta na ba kayo na meron tayong pandemic? Ano na ba ang ginagawa ninyo sa inyong mga tahanan? So as a student, as a person, as a son or as a daughter, ito na po ba ang nararamdaman ninyo? Probably, ang dami nang tumatakbo sa isip nyo. You're experiencing stress, you're experiencing anxiety, you're having panic attacks, and so on. Or maybe you are isolating yourself, not only to your family, to your siblings, to your other relatives, but also to your friends. O kaya naman, nahihirapan na ba kayo sa sitwasyon sa bahay dahil hindi kayo makalabas at feeling nyo wala kayong kalayaan o karapatan na gawin ang inyong mga gustong gawin? Or maybe pagod na kayo sa dami ng activities, projects, assignments na ibinibigay ng inyong mga teachers, lalo na't nagsisimula na ang ating distance learning. So, lahat ng nabanggit ko, posibleng nararamdaman ninyo, lalo na meron tayong COVID-19 pandemic at napakadaming pagbabago ang naganap or nagaganap sa ating mundo. So before I will discuss more the topic for today, gusto ko munang panoorin ninyo ang video na ito related to mental health.
The current challenges brought about by COVID-19 for people all around the globe are unparalleled and have caused fear, anxiety, and uncertainty for so many of us. We are all going through this together, and it's important to understand that you're not alone in how you're feeling right now, and that there are practical, healthy ways to cope with these emotions. The COVID-19 pandemic has created unprecedented change and a need for a response from everyone around the globe. Many of us are worried about our loved ones and our livelihoods, and there is no one right way to cope with what we're experiencing. Remember, however you're feeling, there are others that feel the same. You are not alone. Here are a few voices of people struggling to cope during this time.
Some days I'm okay. I am doing my best to adjust. But yesterday, I couldn't stop crying. This all just seems so unfair, and I feel so angry that this is happening to us. I'm struggling to care for my kids and work from home at the same time, and I'm worried about my parents' health. I watch the news and it just seems so hopeless. I don't know how to keep it together.
I feel so lost and sad. So much has changed. I used to have dinner every week with my family, but now I can't be in the same room with them. I really miss them.
I'm missing out on my prom and my graduation. I've literally been looking forward to these things my whole life, and I'm heartbroken.
With everything going on now, I just can't stop my thoughts. And physically, my chest hurts, and I can't breathe. I get nauseous thinking about what can happen to my family and my friends.
Before this happened, I used to worry all the time about getting sick. Now that worry has turned into absolute terror. My heart races every time I have to go to the store. What if I bring germs home with me? I can't stop washing my hands.
No matter how exhausted I am, my sleep is still terrible. I just keep picturing all the things that could possibly happen. Will I ever get a good night's sleep again?
I've been through so much already. I don't know how I'm going to deal with this too. My flashbacks are getting worse and worse.
Honestly,
I feel like I'm more comfortable in times of crisis. I'm not sure why I don't feel as upset as everyone else does right now.
I don't know when or if everything is going to get back to normal. I feel like the weight of the world is on my shoulders. How many people are going to be affected? What does this mean for me and my family? We've just heard some of the ways people are being affected by the COVID-19 situation. Here are some things that are helpful in building resilience during times of crisis and intense stress. There are a lot of things outside of our control right now, which can be scary. By focusing on the things we can control, we can refuel ourselves and become more grounded and able to focus and cope with all of the things we can't control. One of the most important actions within your control is to follow CDC guidelines to reduce your chance of being exposed or passing the virus on to others. Use social support. No one should go through this alone. There is absolutely no shame in talking about what you're going through with your friends and family, and it's important to be there for others too. Video chat and phone calls are a great way to stay connected. Prioritize self-care. Staying on a regular schedule, exercising, eating a healthy diet, keeping a sleep routine, and taking time to meditate or pray are all important, now more than ever. Be gentle with yourself. During times like this, you will have good days and bad days. Your emotions are most likely heightened at this time. Try not to compare your life to what you see on your friends' social media feeds. There is always more going on behind screens. Helping others can bring joy and gratification. Do what you can to help others, even if it's something as simple as lending an ear or making someone smile. Be kind to the people around you, especially the folks who are still out working, to ensure we all have what we need. If each day feels like an uphill battle, it may help to seek out professional support. To continue helping during this time of social distancing, many mental health providers are using telemental health in their practice. If you can't afford therapy or need to talk to someone right away, you can call the Suicide Prevention Lifeline 24 hours a day at 1-800-273-8255. You are not alone in how you are feeling. There are things you can do and resources you can use to cope during this challenging time. Check out our library for more videos to learn more about.
Yan. So sa video na nakita ninyo, napakagandang example na makita or marinig ninyo kung ano ang mga dinaranas or nararanasan ng bawat tao, especially now that we are having the pandemic. So to continue, alamin natin ano nga ba ang mental health. So mental health is defined as a state of well-being in which every individual realizes his or her own potential, can cope with the normal stresses of life, can work productively and fruitfully, and is able to make a contribution to his or her community. This is according to the World Health Organization. So, lahat po tayo ay merong mental health. Iba-iba nga lang ang severity or ang level ng mental health na meron tayo. Depende po ito sa ating mga nararanasan, sa environment, at ngayon, syempre, that we are having the pandemic. Hindi sa lahat ng oras ay mentally healthy ka because may mga times na meron tayong mga nararanasan or na-experience na nakakapagpababa ng ating confidence, nakakapagpaisip sa atin ng mga negative thoughts. At ibig sabihin nun, kapag nararanasan natin ang mga ganong bagay, ang ating mental health ay bumababa or nag-deteriorate. So not all times okay ang mental health. May mga oras na hindi tayo mentally healthy. So wala naman pong masama doon. But of course, because of the changes, because of the environment, because of what is happening around us, hindi natin pwedeng sabihin lagi na we are mentally healthy. So always remember, katulad ng sabi ko, we all have mental health. But mental health can change over time. Katulad ulit ng sinabi ko, because of the environment, because of your relatives, because of your friends, because of the people around you, and lalo na ngayon, meron tayong pandemic. And lastly, mental illness is nothing to be ashamed of. Neither is talking about it. Of course, if we have mental health, posible nga na bumaba ito, magkaroon tayo ng problema or makaranas tayo ng iba't ibang mental illnesses. But huwag kayong mag-alala, hindi nyo siya dapat ikahiya. We should try to break the stigma on mental illnesses, on mental health, kasi sa panahon ngayon, napaka-importante na mabigyang pansin ang mental health ng bawat tao. Hindi na natin kailangan gawin na, or hindi na natin kailangang mambuli because an individual or someone has a mental health condition. So tanggalin po natin ang stigma when it comes to having mental illnesses, having depression, having bipolar disorder, and other disorders pa. Ang kailangan po ng mga taong iyon ay may tumulong sa kanila, may makaintindi sa kanila, at mabigyan sila ng professional help. So, mental health and COVID-19. So, because of the COVID-19 pandemic, nakaranas tayo ng stress. Lahat ng tao na stress because of this virus. Bigla-bigla na lang siyang dumating, hindi natin napansin, ang dami nang nahawa, ang dami nang namatay. And because of this COVID-19 pandemic or this COVID-19 virus, nagkaroon ng fear at anxiety ang mga tao. Natatakot tayo para sa ating mga sarili, para sa ating mga kamag-anak, para sa ating mga kaibigan. Natatakot tayo na mahawa ng sakit na ito. Nagkakaroon tayo ng anxiety wherein hindi natin alam kung paano pa ba natin masusolusyonan ang problemang ito. Like, for example, during the lockdown, nagkaroon ng panic buying, nagkaroon ng ubusan sa face mask, sa face shield, sa mga vitamins and alcohol. This is all because this disease or this COVID-19 virus, bigla na lang siyang dumating. Kumbaga, wala siyang pasabi, and bigla na lang nag-infect na siya sa other people at ang dami nang nahawa. So, hindi lang po ang mga adults ang naapektuhan ng pandemic na ito, but also the children, the students like you, and syempre, lahat po ng tao sa buong mundo. Ang dami pong nilang kailangang baguhin, kailangang ayusin, because syempre, kahit may COVID-19 pandemic, kailangan tuloy pa rin ang ating buhay. Public health actions such as social distancing and total lockdowns made some people feel isolated and lonely and increases their stress and anxiety levels. Of course, because of the COVID-19 pandemic, may mga precautions tayong kailangan gawin. Unang-una na nga dyan, nagkaroon tayo ng lockdown earlier this year. At ina-implement natin maging hanggang sa ngayon ang social distancing. So, akala natin sa lahat ng pagkakataon, yung ating physical health lang ang dapat nating isipin. That's why we are doing the social distancing and the total lockdowns. But aside from our physical health, kailangan din nating bigyan ng pansin ng mental health. And according to this, ang social distancing at ang total lockdown, may mga taong nakaramdam ng anxiety, ng stress, at feeling nila ina-isolate sila because of these activities. So, oo, nakakatulong siya sa ating physical health, but on our mental health, nagkaroon siya ng problema or nagkakaroon siya ng problema sa isang tao. Because probably may mga tao na hindi sanay na mag-isa, hindi sanay na wala silang kasama or wala silang nakakausap, hindi sanay na hindi sila lumalabas ng kanilang mga bahay. That is why, ito yung mga ramdaman nila. They felt the stress, they had anxiety, or maybe having anxiety. And of course, malungkot sila and they feel isolated. This is all because of the COVID-19 pandemic. But don't worry. What you are feeling right now is completely normal. Normal po na maramdaman ninyo ang lungkot, ang stress, ang anxiety, ang depression, ang panic attack because of this COVID-19 pandemic. Normal siya because this pandemic made us feel these kind of things. So normal siya dahil syempre may mga iniisip tayo. Iniisip natin ang pamilya natin, ang sarili natin, ang community, at syempre yung mga pang-araw-araw nyo ring gawain. Normal po siya. Okay lang matakot, okay lang maging anxious because of this pandemic. So ang pinaka-importante na gawin natin during this pandemic is magkaroon tayo ng someone or ng tao na pwedeng makausap para kahit papaano po is mabawasan yung mga agam-agam or yung mga hindi magagandang tumatakbo sa ating mga isipan due to the pandemic. Stress during an infectious disease outbreak can sometimes cause the following. Because of the pandemic, nakaramdam tayo or nakaranas tayo ng stress or maybe we are still experiencing this. So ito yung mga nangyayari, ito yung mga nagiging cause ng stress natin. So fear and worry about your own health and the health of your loved ones, your financial situation or job, or loss of support services you rely on. Sa simula po ng taon natin, ito yung mga naramdaman natin sa biglang pagpasok ng COVID-19 pandemic. Takot, pag-aalala, hindi lang para sa ating mga mahal sa buhay, kundi para sa ating sarili. Siyempre, financial situation. Dahil sa lockdown, may mga magulang, may mga kamag-anak tayo na hindi pwedeng magtrabaho due to safety reasons. At siyempre, wala pong pumapasok na income sa loob ng bahay. May mga nawalan ng trabaho at may mga hindi nakakatanggap ng services from the government. Because of the pandemic, nagkakaroon din tayo ng changes in sleep or eating patterns dahil din ito sa pag-aalala natin because of the pandemic. Difficulty sleeping or concentrating. Worsening of chronic health problems. Yung mga meron pong mga chronic health problems, mas lalong lumalala ang kanilang mga sakit kasi nga po nadadagdagan pa ng stress. So, yung mga may mga diabetes, may mga sakit sa puso, may mga sakit sa may mga cancer and so on and so forth, lalo pang lumalala or lalo pang nahihirapan ng mga taong ito kasi nakakadagdag pa yung stress na dinulot ng pandemic. Worsening of mental health conditions, and smoking or alcohol and substance abuse. Kasi ito na lang yung makitang paraan ng ibang tao para kahit papaano ma-relieve nila yung stress nila, ma-relieve nila yung anxiety, ma-relieve nila yung lungkot. Ito na lang yung nagiging sandalan nila. Ang mag-smoke, ang uminom, or probably gumamit pa ng pinagbabawal na gamot. So these are some of the things na nangyayari sa atin or because of the COVID-19 pandemic. But katulad nga ng sabi ko, mas magbibigay tayo ng focus sa mental health conditions na nangyari for this year because of the pandemic. So unahin natin ang fear. Ito ay naramdaman ng lahat sa pagkakaroon ng outbreak. So fear is a vital response to physical and emotional danger. This danger pertains to the COVID-19 virus that has been pivotal throughout evolution. If people didn't feel fear, they wouldn't be able to protect themselves from legitimate threats, which often had life or death consequence in the ancestral world. So ibig sabihin, hindi lang ngayon tayo nakakaranas ng fear. Kahit sa mga ninuno pa natin, naramdaman na nila ito. And because of fear, nagkakaroon sila ng mga ways, ng strategies para maprotektahan nila ang kanilang mga sarili. Though ang fear is napaka-negative na emotion, nakakatulong ang makaramdam ng takot para makaisip tayo ng magandang solusyon para matapos or mawala na yung mga takot natin ito. So because of the COVID-19 pandemic, naranasan natin ang matakot para sa ating sarili at para sa inyong mga pamilya. Now, anxiety. Anxiety is an emotion characterized by feelings of tension, worried thoughts, and physical changes like increased blood pressure. May mga tao na nagkaroon ng anxiety because of this COVID-19 pandemic. Probably na-experience nyo yung mga paghirap sa paghinga, panginginig ng katawan, pagkatakot, nagpapalpitate ka, hindi ka makakain, and so on and so forth. A feeling of apprehension and fear, and because of fear, nagkakaroon tayo ng anxiety. A feeling of apprehension and fear characterized by physical symptoms such as palpitations, sweating, and feelings of stress. So ilan yan sa mga simptomas ng anxiety. Yan, palpitation, pagpapawis, sobrang pagpapawis dahil sa sobrang kaba mo. And of course, nagiging stressed ka because of the things that is happening around you. Now, because natakot ka na, you felt anxious, kapag tumindi ang anxiety na ito, it can lead to depression. Depression is a common impairing mental illness characterized by sadness, loss of interest or pleasure, feelings of guilt or low self-worth, disturbed sleep or appetite, feelings of tiredness, and poor concentration according to NIMH. So, ibig sabihin, makikita nyo naman dito yung mga dahilan or yung mga naging cause ng COVID-19 pandemic. Because of the COVID-19 pandemic, nakaramdam tayo ng sadness. Nawalan tayo ng interes sa mga bagay-bagay because hindi tayo makalabas sa ating mga tahanan. Hindi na natin magawa yung mga normal na bagay na nagagawa natin unlike before. Feelings of guilt or low self-worth, ito naman po ay nararamdaman ng mga frontliners o yung mga tao o mga kapamilya natin na lumalabas ng bahay para maghanap buhay. They feel guilty, lalo na baka na-acquire nila yung virus, and syempre pag uwi nila, may mga pamilya sila na dadatnan doon and natatakot sila para sa kalusugan ng kanilang pamilya. Disturbed sleep or appetite, naranasan din natin ito kasi syempre iisipin natin, paano ba ako magsusurvive sa isang araw? Paano ang pamilya ko? Paano ang financial needs namin? Because of these problems, posibleng nawawalan tayo or nahihirapan tayo na makuha ang tamang pagtulog, nawawalan tayo ng ganang kumain kasi puro problema ang tumatakbo sa ating isipan because of the pandemic. Next, feelings of tiredness. Siyempre, nakakapagod din na mag-isip araw-araw, mag-isip ng solusyon kung paano natin matutulungan ang isa't isa, kung paano tayo hindi mahahawa ng pandemic na ito or ng virus na ito, kung paano natin maisasalba ang bawat isa sa pamilya. And of course, poor concentration, because of all these problems, nahihirapan ka ng mag-concentrate, nahihirapan ka ng gawin yung mga dapat na bagay na ginagawa mo, kasi ang daming problema, ang daming mong naririnig na balita, ang daming mong nakikitang namamatay because of the pandemic. So, because of that, posible or marami po sa mga Pilipino and also other countries ang tumaas ang percentage ng depression because of the pandemic. So, ito po ay statistics about the coronavirus in America. So, makikita naman po natin dyan, sa fear of contracting coronavirus among Americans, from March 12 to March 18, 41% po sa kanila ay natatakot. 55% is hindi natatakot at 4% ay hindi alam kung anong mararamdaman nila. So, ang laki po ng changes nito from March 12 to March 18 papunta sa April 15 to April 22. Because from 41% ng people na scared during March, naging 60% na po ang mga natatakot because of the virus. And yung mga hindi natatakot, nabawasan din siya into 36% na lang. So, ibig sabihin, noong una, hindi natin masyadong pinapansin ang virus na ito. But as we see the result, or as we see the things that is happening around us, mas tumitindi ang takot ng bawat isa. Mas tumitindi ang pag-aalala ng bawat isa. So ito po ay statistics lang ng mga Americans. Paano pa kaya dito sa Pilipinas? So on the other part, ito naman ang depression during coronavirus among the US population. Sa Amerika pa rin po ito. So, from April 2020, 51% are feeling normal. 28% naman ang may mild depression, 12% ang moderate, and 9% ang severe. Whereas noong 2006, 63% ang normal lang nararamdaman, 30% ang may mild depression, 12% ang may moderate, and 1% lang ang severe depression. Kung makikita nyo po, sasabihin nyo na, noong 2006, mas okay talaga ang statistics of depression because of some illness or some virus. At makikita nyo po na nitong April 2020, tumaas din compared to 2006 ang merong severe depression. Ibig sabihin, ang coronavirus na ito ay nakapagpadagdag ng mga depressive symptoms sa isang tao, kaya mas tumataas po ang chances na because of this pandemic, mas dumadagdag din po ang mga tao na nade-depress. So kitang-kita naman natin na ang daming pagbabago, ang daming naapektuhan sa pandemic na ito. Ang daming hindi na magawa yung mga normal nilang ginagawa sa pang-araw-araw, at ang dami ding mas tumindi ang kanilang mga sakit na nararamdaman because of this COVID-19 pandemic, lalong-lalo na in terms of mental health. So we must remember that depression is not something to be taken lightly. Huwag nyo lang pong basta-bastahin ito, huwag nyo lang ilang yan. Hindi lang basta ang depression. Marami pong nararamdaman ang taong may depression. Maraming tumatakbo sa isip niya na hindi natin maiintindihan by simply judging them. So kailangan nakausapin natin sila. Depression is not just sadness. Hindi lang siya basta pagkalungkot. Malungkot sila, pero hindi nila maisip kung ano ba yung reason of sadness. Kahit na masaya ang mga tao sa paligid nila, kahit na wala naman silang problema, malungkot pa rin sila. And the problem with depression, hindi mo ma-detect, hindi mo malaman ano ba yung cause of sadness ko. Bigla-bigla na lang, malungkot ako. Depression is not self-indulgence. Depression is not weak of character. And depression is not just a mood to snap out of. Hindi lang siya basta-basta na mood na pwedeng ngayon masaya ako, mamaya malungkot ako, mamaya ulit masaya ako. Hindi lang siya mood. Depression is a disorder. It is an illness. At nahihirapan ang mga taong apektado nito because they cannot control when and where will they feel the sadness. Sa mga tao pong may depression or sa inyong mga kamag-anak or probably kayo na nakakaranas ng depression or nakakaramdam ng depression or depressive episodes, wag nyo pong sasabihin ang mga bagay na ito. First, it's all in your head. Nasa utak mo lang yan. Yung depression na yan, nasa utak lang yan, hindi yan totoo. So, hindi po natin alam kung ano ang kanilang totoong nararamdaman. Hindi lang nila basta yan nilagay sa kanilang utak at sasabihin nila na yes, I am depressed. Next, a lot of people have it worse than you. Mas marami nga dyan nahihirapan sa ganitong bagay. Tapos ikaw may depression ka. Depression lang yan. So hindi po natin pwedeng sabihin yun kasi hindi natin nararamdaman ang nararamdaman nila. You might say na mas mahirap ang nararamdaman ng isang taong ito over you, but people with depression, hindi nila ma-detect, hindi nila malaman kung ano ba ang reason, kung paano ba nila malalabanan or masusolusyonan itong depressive symptom or episode na ito. Next, you're being selfish. Think of your loved ones. Of course, they are thinking of their loved ones. Iniisip nila ang mga pamilya nila, iniisip nila yung mga mahal nila sa buhay. And they are not being selfish. Katulad ng sabi ko kanina, hindi po nila gusto na magkaroon ng depression. May mga bagay, may mga dahilan ang pagkakaroon nila ng depression, probably because of their environment, because of the pandemic that is happening, because of the things that they are hearing from other people. Kaya sila nagkaroon ng depression. Lagi niyong tatandaan na yes, mahal nila ang kanilang mga magulang at ang kanilang mga loved ones. And they are not being selfish. Kung pwede nga lang na mawala na lang basta-basta yung kalungkutan na ito, yung depression na yan, gagawin nila. Next, everyone has problems and I know how you feel. Yes, maraming may problema. Lahat tayo may problema. But there are people na kaya nilang masolusyonan yung problema nila with just this simple solution, with just this simple thing na gagawin nila. But people with depression, nahihirapan sila na solusyonan yung mga bagay na tumatakbo sa isip nila na nagkukos ng pagkalungkot, pagkawala ng kagustuhan na makihalubilo sa ibang tao. So, lahat tayo may problema, but do not compare yourself to other people. Do not compare yourself with a person with depression. And ito namang, I know how you feel. We will never know. People without depression, people without mental illnesses will never know kung ano ang nararamdaman ng isang tao. Tanging tayo lamang as a person ang nakakaramdam or ang nakakaalam ng ating nararamdaman. So do not say na nararamdaman mo ang nararamdaman ko. Because inside my head, iba yung tumatakbo dito. And inside your head, iba din yan. So do not compare. Do not pretend na you know the things that is happening inside my head. Next, it's because you don't believe in God. Let us not put religion kapag meron ang isang tao ng depression or other mental health concerns. Hindi po dahil hindi siya religious, siya lang yung may depression or siya lang ang may mental health problem. Wala pong pinipiling sitwasyon or wala pong pinipiling religion ang pagkakaroon ng mental health problem. Hindi dahil malapit ka sa Diyos, hindi ka na magkakaroon ng mental health concern or mental health problem. Meron mga tao na sila pa ang madalas magsimba, sila pa ang madalas mag-attend ng mga religious activities, but they are also feeling, they also have depression, they also have other mental health concerns. So do not say na because hindi strong yung faith mo, kaya ka nagkakaganyan. So these are some of the things that we must not say or we must not talk about to someone with depression. Now, how can I help a friend who is depressed? So if you suspect that a friend may have depression, you can help him or her get diagnosed or treated. So, importante po na huwag tayong magrunong-runungan, huwag tayong magmagaling na, oh, okay, may depression ka, ganito ang gawin mo. No, that's not the right thing to do. Kung tingin mo ay mayroong depression ang iyong kaibigan, ang iyong family member, ang iyong magulang, ang iyong mga kapatid, encourage them na mas magandang mag-seek tayo ng professional help. Bakit? Kasi baka mamaya, hindi lang naman pala depression or hindi pala depression ang nangyayari sa kanya o hindi pala siya depressed. Probably ibang mental health concern. So, hindi natin pwedeng i-misdiagnose or basta-basta mag-diagnose ng isang tao kasi hindi tayo capable of doing that. May mga professionals po na gumagawa ng diagnosis at sila po ang dapat natin puntahan. Hindi tayo ang magda-diagnose sa isang tao. You may need to help your friend find the doctor and the mental health care provider or mental health services in your school. Marami po tayong mga online services ngayon. Kung hindi man kayo pwedeng pumunta directly to them, meron tayong mga telemental health, meron tayong mga free facilities na nagpo-provide ng mental health assessment. So, pwede kayong pumunta doon. And as for me, sa Student Development Office, ang pwede ko lamang pong gawin is the psychological first aid wherein pwede po nyo akong kausapin. But of course, I will be following the PFA procedures. Then if your friend seems unable or unwilling to seek help, offer to go with him or her and tell your friend that his or her health is also important to you. So, may mga times kasi na hindi ganoon ka-ready ang isang tao na mag-seek ng professional help. So, unang-una, wag natin silang puwersahin. Let us just tell them kung ano ang magiging epekto if ever na mag-seek sila ng professional help. Of course, makakabuti ito. Makakatulong ito kasi malalaman natin kung ano ba talaga ang problema or ano ba talaga ang nangyayari sa loved one natin or sa kaibigan natin. And also, syempre, dapat din na ipaintindi natin sa kanila na in order for them to be helped, kailangan talaga professional help ang tumulong sa kanila. And you as a friend, as a family member is always there to support them. Of course, you can also offer support, understanding, and patience. Napaka-importante po na maintindihan natin sila at magbigay ng mahabang pasensya sa mga taong may mental health concerns. Talk to your friend and listen carefully without judging. Huwag niyo po silang i-judge sa mga sinasabi nila. Huwag kayong magbigay ng judgment, negative judgment or positive judgment. Makinig lang po kayo sa kanila. Talk to them, as I've said earlier, mas maganda, professional help talaga. So for us na hindi ma-misdiagnose or magbigay na lang ng term na hindi naman dapat dun sa tao na yun. Never ignore comments about suicide and report them to adults. Because of depression, may mga instances na matindi na ito at nakakaisip na ng mga suicidal thoughts, suicidal ideation ang isang tao. So if ever po na may mga family members, siblings, relatives, friends kayo na nakikitaan nyo ng signs of suicide, ng simptomas or ng mga suicide ideation or mga suicidal thoughts, i-report nyo po agad siya. Kasi baka mamaya tumindi ang kanilang nararamdaman, and of course mahuhuli na po tayo, hindi na natin sila matutulungan. Encourage your friend to do other activities that may help him or her. Of course, hindi naman po sa lahat ng pagkakataon madadivert natin ang mga isipan natin para makalimutan itong certain problem, makalimutan ang certain mental health condition. Pero makakatulong po na gumawa tayo ng ibang activities na makakapag-take ng time natin para hindi natin gaanong maisip yung mga bagay na tumatakbo sa isip natin, like the negative things na nangyayari dyan, the feelings of depression, the stress, the anxiety, the feelings of fear. So, pwede tayong gumawa ng other activities, mag-exercise, mag-yoga class, manood ng movie, gumawa ng activities, ng art activity. So, ilan lamang yun sa mga bagay na pwede natin gawin para kahit papaano is mabaling natin sa iba ang ating atensyon. Now, let's talk about suicide. Because we already talked about fear, about anxiety, about depression, at katulad ng sabi ko, if the depression will worsen, pwede nang maisip ng isang tao ang magpakamatay. So most often, suicidal thoughts are a result of feelings like you can't cope or recover when you're faced with what seems to be an overwhelming life situation. So, naiisip ito ng ibang tao or ng isang tao kapag feeling nila wala ng solusyon sa mga problemang kinahaharap nila, sa mga bagay na nangyayari sa paligid nila. The pandemic has added intense emotional and mental stress to the lives of people around the world. Because of this pandemic, hindi lang takot, hindi lang anxiety, hindi lang depression ang nararanasan or naranasan ng mga tao. Nagkaroon na rin sila ng suicidal thoughts, maybe ideation or attempts, kasi posible na ang isang taong ito, feeling niya wala ng solusyon sa pandemic na ito. Wala ng reason para mabuhay siya. Instead of acquiring the disease or the virus, mas mabuti na lang na tapusin ang kanyang buhay. So, ang laking epekto sa ating mental health ang ginawa ng COVID-19 pandemic. So, for personal and family concerns, so there is a fear that you or your loved ones will get COVID-19. So, na-feel mo na ang inyong mga kamag-anak, ang inyong mga magulang, baka mahawa sila ng sakit ng virus na ito. Feeling mo din, wala nang chance na mabigyan mo ng comfort or mabigyan mo ng solution yung mga kamag-anak or loved ones mo na naapektuhan itong virus na to. Also, grief over the loss of a loved one to COVID-19 or another illness. So, ito yung mga reasons kung bakit naiisipan na ng isang tao na tapusin ang kanyang buhay because of this pandemic. Meron din tayong social isolation, katulad ng sabi ko, because of the lockdown, because of the social distancing, ito yung mga nafe-feel ng ibang tao. They are socially isolated from others. Especially kung nakatira sila sa isang bahay mag-isa. At yung mga visitors or other people or mga kaibigan, hindi pwedeng makita sila, hindi pwedeng pumunta sa lugar na yon. So being in close quarters with family under stay-at-home orders, which could increase the risk of spouse, partner, or child abuse. Ito po ang isa sa nagiging concern din natin because of the COVID-19 pandemic. Dahil hindi po pwedeng lumabas, hindi po tayo pwedeng pumasok sa school, hindi tayo pwedeng, or mas limited yung mga reasons natin to go out. May mga times or probably baka nangyayari siya sa iba sa inyo na nagkakaroon po ng abuse inside the house. Physical abuse, sexual abuse, mental abuse, kahit anong abuse pa po yan. So isa din siya sa nagiging reason or isa din siya sa mga concerns natin ngayong may COVID-19 pandemic. Kasi baka mamaya ang iba sa inyo nagiging battered child na. Ang inyong mga magulang, laging nag-aaway, nadadamay din kayo. So, isa din yan sa kailangan nating masolusyonan. Next, starting or worsening of alcohol and drug misuse, katulad ng sabi ko kanina, kasi probably ito na lang yung naiisip nila na paraan para kahit papaano gumaan ang pakiramdam nila. Having other mental health disorders such as major depression, bipolar disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder, or an anxiety disorder. So, may mga tao kasi na may mga existing disorders na, mental health disorders. So, because of the pandemic, mas lalo po siyang lumala. Mas lalo naging negative yung thinking ng mga tao ito, mas lalong na-trigger yung kanilang sakit, kaya may malaking chance na tapusin nila ang kanilang mga buhay. So, what are the warning signs for someone who has suicidal thoughts, ideation, or yung someone na, or yung tao na naiisip ang pagpapakamatay? Una po is talking about killing or harming oneself. Sinasabi niya na sa inyo na gusto kong patayin si ganito. Gusto kong saktan itong sarili ko, or nakikita niyo na sinasaktan niya talaga ang sarili niya. Next, expressing strong feelings of hopelessness or being trapped. Because of this pandemic, feeling natin, kung ganito na yung feeling nila before, mas lalong tumindi ito kasi nga hindi tayo pwedeng lumabas at hindi na natin magawa yung mga normal na bagay na ginagawa natin. An unusual preoccupation with death or dying. So, madalas na nababanggit nila ang mga bagay related to death or related sa kamatayan. Acting recklessly as if they have a death wish. So, yung pagkilos nila, hindi na sila masyadong careful. Na parang anytime pwede silang mapahamak. Na anytime pwedeng ang kinilos nila is mag-lead into death. Calling or visiting people to say goodbye. May mga ganito na tumatawag na sila, nagbibigay na sila ng mga huling habilin dun sa mga mahal nila sa buhay, and they are saying goodbye because naiisip na nila yung pagpapakamatay. Changing your normal routine including eating or sleeping patterns. So, kapag nakikita nyo ang isang tao na may mga ganitong tendencies, nagbabago yung kanyang routine, syempre dapat maging mindful tayo. Pag nakikita natin yung mga signs na ito, mas lalo nating bigyan ng atensyon, kausapin yung mga tao na tingin natin nagkakaroon ng suicidal thoughts or ideation. Having mood swings such as being emotionally high one day and deeply discouraged the next. So yung mood niya is hindi consistent. Posible masaya siya ngayon, bukas hindi na naman. After some days, masaya na naman siya. So, nagbabago-bago na or nagkakaroon na siya ng mood swings. Developing personality changes or being severely anxious or agitated. So, may anxiety, madalas siyang nagagalit, mainitin ng ulo, nagbago na ang ugali niya, hindi na siya katulad ng dati na maganda yung pakikitungo sa'yo or sa ibang tao, nagiging arrogant na siya. Then, excessive use of alcohol and drugs. So, isa din yan sa warning signs ng mga taong may suicidal thoughts or tendencies. Now, how can you help someone who has suicidal thoughts? Siyempre, mahirap talagang malaman at matulungan sila. But of course, we need to do something para kahit papaano ay makapag-provide tayo ng help. Katulad ng sinabi ko kanina, first, alamin natin yung warning signs. Yan yung mga diniscuss ko kanina. Then, do not be afraid to talk to your friends. Kausapin nyo sila. Encourage them to open up their feelings sa inyo para kahit papaano naman gumaan ang kanilang loob. Then, be quiet and listen to them. Makinig lang po. Makinig lang kayo. Kasi there are some people na hindi nila gusto na nagbabat-in kayo or tinitigil nyo yung pagsasalita nila. So, just be quiet and listen to them. Makinig ng mabuti. Hindi yung makikinig ka lang for the sake of makita nyo yung presence mo. But listen to every word that he or she is saying. Next, avoid trying to solve the problem. Huwag kayong magrunong-runungan na kaya nyo solusyonan ang kanilang problema. Try not to offer quick solutions or belittle the person's feelings. Hindi sa lahat ng pagkakataon is yung mga ideas natin ay makakatulong sa kanila. Huwag nyo rin basta na sabihin sa tao na yon na ganito dapat ang gawin mo or ganyan lang yung nararamdaman mo, mas madaming taong nahihirapan pa sa'yo. So katulad ng sabi ko kanina, be quiet and listen to them. Listen to them without judgment. Just mainly listening sa problema or sa concerns nila. Then make no deals, never keep a secret of a friend that has suicidal thoughts or plans. Alam ko na nakakompromise or mako-compromise ang friendship ninyo, ang relationship mo with that person, but never keep it a secret. Kasi baka mamaya dahil mas pinahahalagahan mo ang relationship ninyo, hindi ka naman din nakakatulong sa kanya kasi syempre sabi ko nga, iba-iba tayo ng way of thinking. Ngayon, sooner or later, dahil tinago mo, sinikreto mo to, mas lalong tumindi yung feelings niya, yung suicidal thoughts niya, and the next day, wala na siya. So, huli na yung lahat. Hindi mo man lang na bigyan ng warning yung mga magulang niya or yung ibang mga loved ones niya na ganito na pala yung nararamdaman ng taong to. So, hindi dahil sinabi mo sa iba na meron siyang suicidal thoughts, hindi ka na niya kaibigan. Sinabi mo na may ganito siyang nararamdaman para matulungan siya. And of course, syempre, be mindful kung paano mo siya sasabihin dun sa mga nararapat na tao. Hindi yung parang nakikipag-chismisan ka lang. Tell it to them kasi nagki-care ka for that certain person. Then yun, tell an adult and don't wait. Huwag nyo nang hintayin na mahuli na ang lahat. Sabihin nyo po sa nakatatanda. Sabihin nyo po sa mas nakakaalam. Next, advise him or her to seek professional help. Simula pa lang ng ating discussion, ito na po ang sinasabi ko sa inyo. Seek professional help. Posibleng makatulong ang ating mga magulang, ang ating mga ate, kuya, ang ating mga tito, tita, na kahit papaano ay mabawasan yung mga negative thoughts na nasa utak natin. But of course, if we seek professional help, mas alam po nila ang dapat gawin. Mas alam nila kung ano ang dapat unahin, kung ano ang dapat bigyan ng focus sa nararamdaman ng isang tao. Now, if all of these things nagawa mo na po, lahat yan sinunod mo, lahat yan ginawa mo para matulungan ang loved one, ang friend, ang family member mo, but all attempts failed, huwag mong sisihin ang sarili mo. If you did all these things, naging mabuti kang tao dun sa tao na yun. Siguro lang talaga, may mga bagay na hindi natin may explain, may mga bagay na hindi na rin natin masusolusyonan, may mga bagay na tumatakbo sa isip niya na hindi na natin mahawakan. So, if ever that person will leave the planet or this this lifetime, huwag mo sisihin yung sarili mo. Because of that, mas isipin mo na kapag may tao ulit na nangailangan sa'yo, sana mas matulungan mo siya. Sana mas maging isa ka sa instrument na huwag niyang ituloy yung mga hindi magandang or yung hindi magandang nangyari, hindi magandang naging action ng tao na yun. So, huwag mong hayaan na ma-down ka because of that certain situation, but instead, mag-move on ka and still try to help people who have or has suicidal thoughts or maybe tendencies or ideation. Now, kung ikaw naman ay isang tao na mayroong suicidal thoughts, paano mo naman ito masusolusyonan? Una, think a reason for living. Bakit ka nga ba nabubuhay? Bakit nga ba magandang mabuhay? Ano ba ang meron sa buhay natin na dapat mo pang i-look forward, di ba? Ano ba ang pwede mo pang magawa kung mananatili kang buhay? So, mag-isip tayo ng reasons. Bakit ba masarap mabuhay? Next, remember things that have helped in the past. So, may mga bagay siguro na nakatulong sa iyo in the past para mawala or kahit paano ma-minimize yung mga thoughts na ito. So, alalahanin mo ulit. Isipin mong mabuti kung ano yung mga bagay na yon and evaluate mo kung yung mga bagay na yon is effective pa ba at nakakatulong pa ba sa'yo. Next, talk to a trusted friend, a family member, or a professional. Build your support network. Mas maganda kasi na may nakakausap ka, may nahihingahan ka ng mga sama ng loob, ng mga bagay na tumatakbo sa isip mo. Katulad nga ng sabi ko kanina, maganda na may nakikinig sa'yo, may nakikinig sa sinasabi mo. Next, get treatment for mental health problems. Napaka-importante nito kasi hindi naman masusolusyonan ng simpleng pakikipag-usap lang sa'yo ng kaibigan, ng family member, yung nararamdaman mo. So it is better na professional help kasi may mga alam silang ways, therapies, or probably medication na kailangan mo para itong mga suicidal thoughts ay mawala or kahit paano ay mabawasan. Next, do the opposite of how you feel like doing activities and interests. Patulad ng sabi ko kanina, it may or may not help you, but at least nakapag-try ka gumawa ng ibang activities or interest na kahit pa paano ay nakakapag-divert ng attention mo, nakakapag-pagana ng utak mo, nakakapag-pakalimot ng mga bagay na iniisip mo. Then learn to deal with stress in a healthy way. Iba-iba tayo ng paraan kung paano mag-deal sa stress, sa anxiety, sa panic attack, sa depression, and so on, or other mental health concerns. So, magkaroon ka or try mo yung mga iba't ibang ways on how to deal with stress or other mental health concern at kung ano ang mas effective sa'yo, yun ang gawin mo whenever you have the suicidal thoughts. Now, I'm about to end my discussion, but first I would like you to watch this short video clip. But i-remind ko na din kayo na medyo sensitive itong video clip natin. So if ever na matrigger kayo, just mute or maybe alis muna kayo dito sa screen. Then later on, balik na lang kayo when the video stops. Okay?
Hey Psych2Goers, do you remember the last time you felt sad, anxious, or scared that you were somehow off? You're not alone, even if it may feel like it. The National Alliance on Mental Illness, or NAMI, reports sometimes a funk or rough patch can be a sign of something much deeper. This video represents 10 mental health symptoms you shouldn't ignore. Before we begin, we need to warn you that this video may be triggering for some. If you feel triggered by this video, please take care of yourself, even if it means clicking off this video. With that being said, let's talk about the 10 mental health symptoms you should not ignore. 1. You're having feelings of sadness or depression that last longer than 2 weeks. All people experience sadness at one time or another. However, most normal feelings of sadness get better with time. The American Psychiatric Association reported abnormally intense sadness lasting 2 weeks could be a sign of depression.
The National Institute of Mental Health stated, not being able to snap out of it or sadness being heavier than normal should be taken seriously. 2. You're having extreme mood swings and don't know why. You find that your mood seems to switch super quickly or randomly. Clem and others studied how often the average person's mood shifts on any given day. According to the National Center of Biotechnology Information, NCBI, this study showed people tend to experience positive emotions, such as joy or love, more often than negative ones. But it's totally normal for someone's emotions to change daily. However, the National Alliance for the Mentally Ill, NIMH, warns especially dramatic mood swings that cause huge changes in your behavior and energy can be a sign of bipolar disorder. Agencies such as the American Academy of Pediatrics say the more red flag signs are experiencing sadness, anger, or feelings of excessive euphoria for most of the day, especially if it has nothing to do with what's going on in your life. 3. Your worry and anxiety have gotten out of control. Have you ever found yourself worrying but can't shut it off? According to the National Institute for Mental Health, it may be a sign of an anxiety disorder. Other signs of anxiety disorders include having problems relaxing, insomnia, racing thoughts, unexplained aches and pains, or being easily irritated. The Anxiety and Depression Association of America suggests that if you've ever felt this way on most days for at least 6 months, you should consider talking to a mental health professional about your symptoms. 4. You've started withdrawing from others or isolating yourself. Taking time away from others can be positive for your mental health and physical health. But what if you constantly make excuses to avoid socializing? Mental health pros, such as Raymond Starr Jr. and Howard Dubowitz, say avoiding people or events you used to enjoy can be a sign of mental illness, such as depression, anxiety, or a psychotic disorder. 5. You may have noticed you're having delusions or hallucinations. Kumari and others describe the two aspects of psychosis, hallucinations and delusions, as a sense of perception or belief that creates a lot of urgency in the person experiencing it, despite evidence the perception or belief isn't real. The National Alliance on Mental Illness reports up to 100,000 people in the US will experience psychosis every year. NAMI further stated 3 out of every 100 people will have a psychotic episode as a symptom of a physical or a mental illness, such as schizophrenia or schizoaffective disorder, in their lifetimes. 6. You're having more and more difficulty dealing with normal life situations. Have you ever gone through a time in your life when nothing seemed to go right and you just couldn't deal? The Australian Department of Health stated a rough patch that you just can't get past, one that hurts your ability to function for more than 2 weeks to 2 months, may be a sign of depression or anxiety. A major sign that what you're experiencing is more than just a rough patch is when you have a hard time functioning in normal situations for several weeks, according to Mental Health America. 7. You're sleeping too much or too little. The Harvard University School of Medicine believes that 10 to 18% of the general population has problems sleeping. However, Harvard's med school stated either sleeping too much or too little is 2 or 3 times more common in people who suffer from a mental illness. The Harvard Med School stated about 50% of people who live with ADHD, depression, anxiety, or bipolar disorder suffer from insomnia or hypersomnia, which means sleeping too much. 8. You started abusing drugs or alcohol. According to mentalhealth.gov, 1 in 4, or 25% of people who live with the symptoms of a mental illness use alcohol or drugs to self-medicate things like anger, anxiety, or mania. Experts believe individuals who suffer from depression, anxiety disorders, personality disorders, or schizophrenia are more likely to use drugs and alcohol as a coping mechanism than people diagnosed with other mental illnesses. 9. You're having extreme anger outbursts. Do you ever feel anger that's almost impossible to control, or way too much for the situation? If so, your anger may be warning you about your stress levels, unresolved grief, or your anxiety. Healthline reported extreme anger outbursts can also be a sign of unresolved trauma, bipolar disorder, alcohol abuse, obsessive-compulsive disorder, intermittent explosive disorder, or depression. If you wonder if your anger is healthy, experts recommend first recognizing your physical and emotional signs of anger. And 10, you started thinking of self-harm or suicide. The Mental Health Foundation reported up to 10% of people under the age of 30 have thought about self-harm or suicide. There are many reasons people consider self-harm or suicide, such as abuse or neglect at home, a major loss, trauma, or a catastrophe that you can't control or avoid. Bradvick, 2018, reported approximately 90% of people who have completed suicide also suffered from a severe mental illness, such as bipolar disorder or depression. If you find yourself thinking about self-harm or suicide, we would very much like you to reach out to a mental health professional and get the help that you need and deserve. If you can relate to any of these symptoms on this list, you're definitely not alone, nor are you bad for feeling this way. But we want you to take care of yourself, which means reaching out to a mental health professional if you've been experiencing any of the symptoms on this list. As always, any information provided here is for educational purposes only.
So napaka-helpful ng ating video. Probably may iba sa inyo na yun ang nararanasan. But always remember that you are not being selfish for avoiding the news about this pandemic, feeling upset that you are missing out on things you were looking forward to, wishing things would go back to normal, missing your friends and family, recognizing that this is negatively impacting your mental health, and feeling sad you can't go out. All of these things are normal, lalo na po ngayong pandemic. And always remember that asking for help is not a sign of weakness. Mas maganda po na humingi kayo ng tulong, mas maganda po na mag-seek kayo ng help para po malaman natin kung paano or ano ang solusyon na maibibigay natin sa inyo. The office is always open for all your questions, your queries, your concerns regarding your mental health or other things. Huwag po kayong mahiya na lumapit sa atin or sa amin. Kami pong nandito sa school is always ready to help, not only in your academics but also in your personal lives. So I hope that you have learned something from this webinar and from our topic. Sana po ipatuloy kayong mag-participate at manood ng ating mga webinar. And I hope na may mga natututunan po kayong bago sa ating mga discussions. So these are my references. And after this video or after this presentation, I would like to encourage you to answer the evaluation so that we will know kung ano pa yung mai-improve namin sa aming mga services. The evaluation form or the link of the evaluation form is on your ARALinks account. So have a good day. I hope to see you all again soon, and I hope we can all meet again physically dito sa school. So thank you again and God bless.